Welcome to Couch Quarterbacks.
Hey guys, welcome to the Couch Quarterbacks, episode 5, I think,
Episode number 5.
in an ongoing series and podcast where we bring you guys the best in football. We actually are in the off season right now, but never fear because we still have a good show for you today. I'm Ben. Joined with me, as always, is Andrew Roach, a.k.a. Say hello to everyone out there, buddy.
Yeah, what is going on, everybody? And like Stein said, we are going to have a great show for you guys. Had a lot of off-season moves going on, a lot of contract extensions, adjusting of contracts. The new season is starting next week.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, so we got that to get excited for.
Happy New Year, yes. Happy New Year to all those people out there. You know, a lot of people, their New Year's start on January 1st. Well, our New Year's start on March
17th.
17th.
I got it down. So yeah, it's on St. Patrick's Day actually this year. So.
St. Patrick's Day. That was my little jig.
But yeah, you have the regular New Year, you have Chinese New Year, and then the NFL New Year.
And then the baseball New Year, which
lots of
I think
New Year's.
starts in December. I don't remember.
Lots of New Year's to get excited for. But anyways, in this show, we're going to have our usual start off with the opening kickoff, kind of talking about everything that happened this past week in the NFL world. And then we're going to get into our 2021 starting QB predictions. So we're going to go down the list, going team by team, talk about who their starting quarterback is going to be. A lot of teams...
What their quarterback outlook is looking like right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, some teams are going to be a lot easier than others. There's a couple of teams towards the beginning of our list where it's like, oh, well, that's a pretty obvious choice. But then you get to some of these other teams and it's like, well, they could go in a lot of different directions. So we're going to try and predict and see who that starting quarterback is going to be for all 32 teams when it comes to week 1 of the 2021 season. But without further ado, let's go into our opening kickoff. And starting our opening kickoff
is the big news. Probably the one contract that's been dispute, I guess, has been going on since last season, pretty much.
Yeah, for the past couple of off seasons.
Yeah, and that is Dak Prescott getting that extension, getting that 4-year, $160 million dollar deal. As Jerry Jones even said, that Dak had all the bargaining power, which makes sense. I mean, he's just entering his peak, or his prime, I should say. Turns 28 in July, 27-year-old quarterback who is, a great quarterback, no off-the-field issues, just a guy that they can build around. So that's kind of, they lock him up for 4 years.
Yeah, it really makes sense for both teams, Stein, because when you talk about the Cowboys side of things, they retain their top-tier quarterback. I think everyone would agree that Dak he's probably right there on the fringe of the top 5 quarterback.
I'd say top 10.
Yeah, I think he's for sure locked into a top 10, right on the fringe in terms of a top 5 quarterback. Yeah. But they're able to retain the top tier quarterback they have. No more Andy Dalton, no more Ben DiNucci starting at quarterback.
And just those other 2 guys I forgot that they brought up.
Dumpster 5 that they had last year. Listen to this that I found, Stein. In the 5 games, Dak got hurt in week 5 of the season last year. The Cowboys were averaging almost 33 points a game with Dak at quarterback in those 5 games. In the 11 games after Dak got hurt, it was a 40-39 game. In the 11 weeks after that injury, they were averaging just 21 points per game without Dak. And a couple of those weeks right after the injury, they were putting up like 3, 7, like it was less than 10 points in just about every single game.
Was this injury planned by Dak's people, to show his value to the Cowboys?
I don't think any injury is ever planned.
Obviously not, but it kind of begs the question that this injury really showed what they would miss without him, and they just without Dak. The Cowboys are better than the Giants or the Jets are a team in quarterback hell. So
and then looking on Dak's side of things, he obviously gets that financial security, having that big and gruesome injury from last season. He now gets the 4 years of money, and he literally bet on himself, and it pays off for him.
We're living in the quarterback, generation now where there's a lot of quarterbacks who we thought were happy with their teams, but they're not. So this is something that might be a little bit more non-commonplace, is a guy who's going to be happy, with his organization.
Yeah, and one interesting fact that I found, Stein, is so Dak was a 4th round pick in the 2016 draft. with his new deal, he's now got a higher average annual value than the two top quarterbacks, the top picks in that draft, in Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. Obviously, both of them are making a nice pretty penny, and both on new teams, but Dak is making more annually than both of those guys.
Yeah, I'd say he'd probably be the most successful, of those guys right
definitely.
now. Easily.
And speaking of the monetary-wise of things, Dak, if he was going to be under the franchise tag, was going to be taking a cap hit towards the Cowboys of about $38 million. With the new deal, the cap hit's going down to about $22 million, and so in this year of everyone trying to save money, the Cowboys saved $15 million in that regard, and then also restructured 3 of their offensive linemen's contracts, which saved them another $17 million. So now instead of they were one of those teams that was way in the red going into this offseason. They're now projected about $20 million in terms of available cap space, according to Over the Cap, one of the sites that we use for looking at caps in the offseason.
Yeah, so definitely making moves to help, and a lot of teams are, as we'll talk about, restructuring, releasing, and I think the Cowboys, this is exactly what they wanted to do and needed to do. And I think it's just going to be funny though, because they're going to have all this hype, and they got their answer at quarterback locked up. Is this 2 or 3 years down the road, do you think this could bite them in the butt?
It could, just because they have so much money tied into 3 players. When you talk about Dak, Ezekiel Elliott, and Amari Cooper, that's like $72 million that they're going to make out of their cap space for the whole season. So the Ezekiel Elliott deal seems like the one that's really going to bite them in the ass going on down the road. But
yeah, that one's really, especially a running back.
With how weak the NFC East is, I would see them being the favorite for the foreseeable future.
Oh, can we talk about running backs in Texas? New running backs in Texas in a little bit?
Yeah, we can bring up that Mark Ingram deal to the Texans. We'll bring it up later on at the end of our opening kickoff. But I would say the Cowboys with this deal would put them back probably as the favorite in the NFC East. It depends on the move that the Washington football team makes at quarterback, but they've got the great defense, but the offense, we talked about it in episodes prior, the offense just isn't there.
Yeah, I guess this kind of move puts them, a healthy Dak makes the Cowboys the definitive favorite in the NFC East.
It's not too hard to be in contention in the NFC East.
But I think a healthy Dak really just puts them over the top. And we'll see. I think he'll be ready to go by the start of next season. Knee injuries are never fun. You can ask me about that. These guys have the best medical care in the world, though, and I think that I haven't seen anything out of the Cowboys camp, as to how his progress is. But I'm sure he'll probably be doing light work when it comes to mini camp and actual training camp in July.
Like I said, this injury did happen week 5, so it was kind of earlier on in the season. A guy like Joe Burrow, who we'll talk about later, got injured week 10, week 11, and he's projected in line to be ready for the start of the regular season. So just to kind of put a little comparison there, put it into perspective. But big signing for the Cowboys. Like we said, they get their franchise quarterback, and then on Dak's side of things, he becomes a free agent in his age 32 season, so in line for another big contract if he's able to stay healthy.
Quarterbacks have a longer lifespan, even though that 27 through 30 is usually the peak. So he definitely could see another payday and really just make off with hopefully a ring or a MVP for him, because I think he's definitely a great guy. A really good story too. I don't know if you know about his brothers. Well, not a great story, but it's just his family and stuff like that. A lot to overcome,
Definitely.
And just see a guy have success on it's something that we always love to watch.
For sure. Moving on to our next topic, we're gonna talk about the franchise tag window closed this past week. On Tuesday, a couple players got franchise tag, a couple players did not. Some of the notable guys that did get tagged, there were 10 players overall. Justin Simmons for the Broncos, Marcus May for the Jets, Brandon Scherf for Washington, Chris Godwin for the Super Bowl winning Buccaneers, offensive lineman Cam Robinson for the Jags, Leonard Williams for the Giants, Allen Robinson is staying in Chicago, Taylor Moton for the Panthers, offensive lineman, and then Marcus Williams
which
in the
was
secondary
surprising for the Saints, because all signs were pointing to them just completely clearing house in the secondary. We saw them lose Janoris Jenkins.
That's what they brought up the Falcons as being a possible team that signs him. Quan Alexander, I think, is another guy that's going to end up getting cut by the Saints as they're trying to save money. But probably some of the bigger name guys, Chris Godwin, obviously going back to the Super Bowl winning Buccaneers, another great target for Tom Brady.
Leonard Williams, a guy who's constantly been, kind of that under the radar, but still, he's kind of like a Grady Jarrett-esque defensive tackle to me.
That's what Allen Robinson to the Bears. That was kind of you weren't sure. The Bears are kind of in that no man's land. They made the playoffs, back into the playoffs last season. So it's like, are they going to keep some of their big name guys? Are they going to let guys walk, try and clear a little bit of cap space? But
Bears making the playoffs is still like laughable to me.
And they were in the Nickelodeon Bowl.
They could be again. And the couple of players that weren't tagged that we thought might have been, one notable one that is not, we actually didn't even list on our script, is Keanu Neal.
Yeah.
Did not get franchise tagged for the Falcons. They'll let him test the waters.
I would say he was really the only guy that we saw for the Falcons that had the chance of getting franchise tagged, but the Falcons
the Falcons could get him back easily.
Yeah, just
but
because
they're just letting him test, see if he can get something. They want what's best for him, and if someone's going to offer him ridiculous amounts of money, then let him go.
That's what. Just because you get franchise tag doesn't mean you have to play under that 1-year deal. You can end up signing an extension before the season begins. If you're not franchise tagged, that just means the other teams have a chance to sign you. So a lot of offensive names that did not get franchise tagged. Running backs, Aaron Jones for the Packers.
That makes sense. He's got guys waiting behind him to take over.
He's going to be wanting top-tier running back money. They have A.J. Dillon there to take over. They could obviously sign a different free agent like a Chris Carson, who was not franchise tagged by the Seattle Seahawks, so he's another guy that's going to be entering the market. They have a couple of guys, Rashad Penny and DJ Dallas, who could take over the running back duties in Seattle. Kenny Golladay, wide receiver for the Lions, that kind of makes sense. Lions in pretty much full rebuild mode, going to have a whole new receiving core next season. Hunter Henry for the Chargers. I thought this was kind of surprising that a top red zone target for Justin Herbert, the young quarterback, and the Hunter Henry going to be entering the free agent market.
Yeah, we'll see if somebody is willing to pay for his services, and you're right. That is interesting because, you wouldn't think that they would want to get rid of somebody that really was been injured and never really they got their full taste of him until really this year was probably his best season.
That's what anyone that plays fantasy knows, that productive offensive tight ends are kind of
few and far between.
Yeah, few and far between. And another guy on this list who didn't get tagged was Jonnu Smith for the Titans, so he's going to be a free agent.
He's one of those tight ends, not very offensively productive. But
that's what I was talking about it with a buddy. In the first 5 weeks of the season, he just went on an offensive tear, and then the 11, 12 weeks of the season, he just completely disappeared for the most part. But so those are some of the guys that got tagged. Some of the guys that didn't get tagged, obviously, like we said, those guys that didn't get tagged can sign with either other teams, can re-sign with their current team, but the franchise tag window did close this past week. And once again, speaking of kind of some more monetary stuff, as we will this whole offseason, the salary cap was officially set at $182.5 million.
Reduced from last year.
Yes, and because of the reduction in terms of the salary cap, more veterans on the chopping block. We talked about it last episode.
We said last week that there was going to be a lot of people said massacre and a diaspora, as we even said. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, and granted, the league year hasn't started, so we're probably going to see a lot more. And especially with people getting signed, there's going to be like, why do we still have him on our roster? Let's get rid of him. Some notable people that have been cut for the Falcons: James Carpenter, that guard that we signed, former first round pick from the Jets, is gone.
Yeah, they end up saving about $4 million with
it helps a little bit. Kenny Vaccaro, Malcolm Butler, both members of that Titans defense. Those guys, cut. John Brown, receiver for the Bills. Kevin Zeitler. Richie Incognito, who I think just needs to retire at this point.
Yeah, he's been in the league for quite a while. Also,
Robert Alford, who actually was cut but just got re-signed.
Really?
Yes, just got re-signed to a 1-year deal by the Cardinals.
By the Cardinals,
okay. Yeah. So
okay, well there we go. A little update for that.
Some of these guys will get cut, but they'll just get new could get a new deal.
It's basically the equivalent of them getting a restructured contract without having to probably just more paperwork to fill out.
Yeah, start over, blank slate. Two of the big cuts, though, and literally big figuratively and literally, is Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher for the Chiefs. Both starting tackles, who were injured and missed that Super Bowl, leaving the Kansas City Chiefs. So that was surprising.
Yeah, I'm sure Patrick Mahomes isn't a huge fan of that. Two guys that have been protecting him for the past couple seasons, but
Eric Fisher, a former first overall pick.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's every first overall pick since the 2016 draft. None of them are on the teams that they were drafted by. I think I saw that stat when the Chiefs released Eric Fisher. So just a crazy in terms of the number one overall picks, how quickly those guys have changed teams. Usually you think of those guys and it's like, oh, well, they're the franchise of these organizations, but just not the case going back a couple of seasons ago. We mentioned the new year begins this upcoming Wednesday, March 17th at 4 p.m., so a lot of these moves will end up becoming official once that new year begins, and there's going to be a lot more moves, obviously. And right now, according to Over the Cap, there are 9 teams that are projected to be over the cap right now, but a lot of teams, in terms of trying to cut money and everything, it's been reduced in terms of the amount of money that they are over the cap. So
yeah,
just looking at that,
Falcons are improving a little bit. They actually did have 4 signings, I want to say. They did sign Young Ho Koo, our kicker, long term.
That's
not long term,
but $14 million over the cap right now is what this over the cap website projects them at.
Yeah, and that's not terrible. I don't mind paying that.
The biggest problem with that number is that the Falcons have the least number of players on their roster right now, with like 29, 30 guys or something like that. I think that was before any of the signings that they made. So.
I heard something on the radio this week that said like the Falcons have between Matt, Julio, and Matt and Julio are in like Brady, Jarrett are like 40% of their entire cap.
Making a lot of money towards the Falcons. But some final last minute signings: Cam Newton signing a 1-year, $14 million deal to re-sign with the Patriots. Up to $6 million of that is going to be in incentives. Obviously, we'll talk about Cam Newton more when we get into our quarterback predictions, talking about the Patriots. But I think a lot of people's initial reactions were kind of surprised just based on the production that he had last season, or I guess lack thereof in terms of production.
Yeah, the drop-off of production and just how anemic that New England offense was. So that was very surprising because a lot of people said, are we going to see Cam Newton even throw an NFL pass ever again, as a starter?
That's what we were talking about it last week. We were like, well, is he even going to be a starter next year?
Yeah. I mean, there's no guarantee that, they sign him and that he is the starter.
Yeah, they said that they are still looking to make other quarterback moves, so we'll talk about that later.
But it is good to see, though, that he is going to be on a team next year, because I've always liked Cam, even when he was a Panther and he was on that 2015 team that was, the bane of all the Falcons fans. I've always liked Cam, and I've always hoped for success for him. So I really hope that, in this second tryout year, in a non-COVID year, hopefully, they actually have some weapons. It's time to get rid of Julian Edelman, or at least slow him down and just figure out, what the heck they need on offense.
Yeah, besides Cam and N'Keal Harry, they could...
Yeah, they are saying they're shopping N'Keal Harry as well.
Yeah, that could be a whole new look in terms of the offensive weapons.
Hey, those Lions receivers... going to free agency. I'm just saying.
Oh, man. I don't know how much of an upgrade that would be, but...
Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones were successful. But,
yeah.
Anyways, I'm speaking of Patriots quarterbacks. Tom Brady... this is a weird deal.
Yeah, it's a quote-unquote 4-year extension, but he's got 3 voidable years in that extension, so it's basically a 1-year extension.
With 3 options?
Yeah, so he was signed through...
With a 3-year team option?
He was signed through this season, so basically he's getting a 1-year extension, being signed through 2022. And from what I was reading from the ESPN article about the signing, is that it's pretty much taking money from your salary cap down the road, so in those voidable years, so I guess it'll be like 2023, 2024, 2025, taking money from those years and basically letting you use them now, because the Bucs have a lot of players from that Super Bowl team that they need to re-sign. Levante David's deal to re-sign with the Bucs is very similar in terms of voidable years, but it's helping them. It doesn't hurt them as much against the salary cap now, and it's kind of like pushing it later on down the road. So that's kind of the downside of it. The Bucs, fresh off the Super Bowl, trying to continue to be in contention, get back to that Super Bowl. So trying to kind of go all in now. and the move saves $19 million against the cap for them. Guys like Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh, Gronk, AB, Fournette, all guys that are free agents this upcoming offseason, trying to get the band back together, as Brady said in his Instagram post.
You know, I really, it's gonna make me hate the Bucks because I didn't mind the Bucks winning the Super Bowl this year as being a division rival, but with Brady, you know, making this his band, it's not his band. This is just something he just got into at the last minute.
I mean, this is something that you saw Brady do a lot, especially toward later on in his career with the Patriots. Like he would help kind of restructure his deal. You see a lot of guys doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of guys are doing it now, especially. But they kind of restructure their deals so they can bring in some of these other superstars, make sure that you have those playmakers on your roster.
I'm in the camp that like I'm in the Max Kellerman camp with Brady. Like there's got to be a decline coming eventually.
He's going into his age 44 season and he's looking for Super Bowl ring number 8.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, guys, also before we get into our quarterback predictions and like outlook, let's just talk about one deal that I just find hilarious, and that is Mark Ingram to the Texans for 1 year, $4 million.
I think it was $3 million. I mean,
plus
I was gonna say it could be an incentive to get up to $4 million,
something.
but I think Bill O'Brien is in there with like a fake mustache and some like fake glasses on.
It's OILL Bo Bryan. I can't. It's hard to.
Oil Bryan or something.
Oil Bo Bryan is just. Gosh, what are the Texans doing? Not only do they have they have
an aging David Johnson.
Yeah,
but now let's pair
David Johnson.
Let's
pair him with a guy who's way over the hump in terms of running backs with Mark Ingram, who was literally a healthy scratch at the end of last season on a Ravens team that's a run-first offense.
Yeah, it's a very questionable move for the Texans. Like I said,
waste $3 to $4 million on a guy who. What are you going to use him for? Like what?
I mean,
he's not going to be an every down back.
They did cut Duke Johnson, so could go into a passing down role.
He's never been a passing heavy guy though.
I'm not exactly sure what the Texans were thinking in that deal, but like I said, it's just the organization's picking up just as if Bill O'Brien never left.
I mean, it's just baffling, especially. I don't think you should ever spend money on a running back, especially a guy.
Well, I mean, this is a 1-year deal, so it's a a different than signing your franchise guy like Ezekiel Elliott.
I guess if Bill O'Brien was there, they would have signed him for 4 years, $40 million.
They would have signed him like he was the Heisman winner back in 2008 or whatever year it was.
All right, let's get into quarterbacks, folks. This is the most important position in football. Everyone knows it. It is literally it makes or breaks football teams, as we saw with the Bucs. And, the Chiefs, that these guys have really just turned around organizations.
This ain't your 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of football anymore, Stein.
No, this is a quarterback-first league, and it always will be for the foreseeable future for us in our lifetimes. And we're going to see these guys make millions and millions of dollars. But this year is one of the most interesting years because of COVID. A lot of moving parts with quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks that are unhappy, a lot of quarterbacks that are disappointing, and a lot of quarterbacks that are just in this limbo, of sorts.
Yeah, that's what we're going to probably be in the double digits in terms of number of teams that have new quarterbacks going from 2020 to 2021.
Yes. Spoiler alert, I said, after looking at all the quarterbacks, I came up with 11 of the 32 teams that have comfortable situations for 2021 and beyond. That's just for 2021 and beyond. Because, you could say the Steelers, who, Big Ben will be their starter in 2021, but 2021 and beyond, that's not a comfortable quarterback situation.
Definitely.
So,
okay, I see where you're coming from. That makes a lot more sense. So, like I said, when I said in the intro, a lot of these teams, some of these teams will be a lot easier than others, like the first team that we're going to go to, the Arizona Cardinals, with Kyler Murray. That's a lock-in pick.
Kyler Murray will be their starter for the next, 5 years. At least
they'll probably try and lock him up for even more than
5 year plus. A guy who I think he had flashes of brilliance last year. Not that MVP level, as I predicted. I still think that's a little bit far off, but a guy who it's just a bright future and a comfortable situation for them. Arizona, has some other problems to worry about, but, this is not the Arizona team from like 2-3 years ago. They're a lot more comfortable than some other teams we're going to talk about.
I think the biggest problem Arizona's got is just being in such a tough division.
They're one of my 11 teams though, and so they are comfortable.
Yeah, moving on to the next team.
Team that's not as comfortable, but also not as shitty as some other teams in terms of the quarterback situation.
Your Atlanta Falcons.
Yes.
I think we both have penciled in Matt Ryan as a starting quarterback for next season just because of that contract.
Paying him too much. I mean, the guy is not a bad quarterback. It's just he's not this young gunslinger who can run quarterback that everyone wants.
He's more the old style of quarterback, the Tom Brady, the
Phillip
Big
Rivers,
Ben, those kind of quarterbacks where people like the flashy, the Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons, the Kyler
Mahomes,
Murrays that we just talked about, those style of dual threat quarterbacks. But because of the money, don't think he's going to get moved. He's probably still going to be the starter next season.
Yeah.
But does that mean the Falcons don't draft a quarterback with the number 4 overall pick?
We're gonna have a pre-draft show probably in April, early April-ish.
I'd say it'll be coming up in a couple weeks.
We'll be coming up.
Think.
It's definitely coming faster than we think, and the fact that the Falcons do have the 4th pick, a lot of moves can be made, especially for a first year, GM Terry Fontenot. So it's going to be interesting. I do think that they will get a quarterback in this draft, especially because we only have one quarterback under contract, and that is Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of spending a 4th pick, especially with other needs on this team, isn't a guarantee. And I do think the Falcons are in a position to trade down their pick for a team that there's teams that don't have a starting quarterback right now.
Yeah, that's what I've been preaching for a while now, probably since the offseason started, that the Falcons, with their pick, should trade down in the draft, acquire some more picks because, like I mentioned, they have so few guys on their roster right now. There's more needs in other positions.
You know how much we criticize as Falcons fans Falcons drafts? I mean, what fans don't criticize their draft? But this is going to be one of those drafts where it's like, no matter what Fontenot does, we're like, fans are going to hate it. If they draft a quarterback, and the guy that is, there's 3 guys that are like penciled in, and are potential guys, and then maybe like Mac Jones could be the 4th. But the 3 top guys are Zach Wilson, Lance, and Justin Fields.
It's pretty much you mentioned the Trevor Lawrence at number 1.
That's pretty much a done deal.
Written in pen right now, written in Sharpie. And then probably the 5th best quarterback for most guys, Mac Jones. If the Falcons end up trading back even, they probably would still have a chance at some of those 3 top guys.
There's a Trask, there's a Jones in the later.
2.
Yeah.
Mac Jones probably mid-round 1. Kellen Mond, you're getting into like round 2, round 3. So
I don't even want to think about like the later rounds with like Felipe Franks.
So that's what it seems like both of us think that the Falcons should draft back, but in my mind, I feel like that they would keep that 4 pick, and if they do, I see them going with Zach Wilson. I don't see the Jets, as we'll talk about later with the Jets, I see them not drafting a quarterback. The Dolphins, whatever they decide to do with their pick, I see them not drafting a quarterback. So I think that it would be between Zach Wilson and Justin Fields. And it seems
Lance
like
is a dark horse.
Yeah, it seems like most people are going Zach Wilson over Justin Fields right now. So I see the Falcons going with Zach Wilson, having him sit behind Ryan for a season, and then he'll be your 2022 starter.
I do not think we haven't had a pro day from Fields or Zach Wilson yet.
Trey Lance's is today.
Trey Lance
actually.
is having
Friday.
Yeah, Trey Lance is having his, and he only had that one game tryout in the season, which he didn't look good. He didn't look, that good, anything to write home about in that one game, but that's a really weird scenario. So, as for the Falcons' long-term stability, honestly, I like Matt this coming season, and even Matt next season wouldn't be a terrible option. The problem with the Falcons, though, is they just, I think they need a guy to sit behind Matt, what Jordan Love is doing with the
Patrick
Packers.
Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for a season.
Season or two.
That's a pretty extreme scenario. So you're not gonna.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen all the time. Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre for a couple seasons. So.
Matt Ryan is still, is not. I mean, we saw what Drew Brees was doing till his age, 40-something season. So Matt Ryan can still be productive. Just get one of these young guys to sit behind and gain experience.
Definitely.
Let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens, who are another team that are in my, good quarterback outlook, and that's with Lamar Jackson. $23 million, taking that 5th-year option for 2022. Wait, he hasn't taken. Has he taken that option? That's the option he has. Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. And this is a guy who we've seen evolve. I'll use that word, evolve, from a crazy college quarterback to an MVP in the NFL. Teams are learning how to handle him, but I think last year was kind of just a down season for everyone. So,
and we've talked about him before. When you look at the stats, it's not even that he had that terrible of stats. They're just down from his MVP numbers, which we've said it before. Yeah. How players obviously can't put up those MVP type numbers every single year. And he's still
lacking that legitimate number one receiver that he hasn't had. Granted, he loves his tight ends, but if the Ravens can get a guy, one of these, decent receivers, like picture Devontae Smith, in that offense or something. That'd be awesome.
If only they could trade up from or if he dropped from their 27 overall pick.
Jalen Waddle, maybe,
Yeah, he'll probably be gone by then too. But they could. They definitely have options available with some of the guys that they could get. Definitely going to need some wide receiver help, but a quarterback situation is definitely not a question. Lamar Jackson will be there.
It's a comfortable quarterback situation. I would say the only question is if teams keep figuring him out, and then people are eventually saying all right, this style of football works for one season.
I think the thing that really helps Lamar is that they have such a great run game as well. You saw it with Mark Ingram, and now you have J.K. Dobbins there as well. They have one of the top run games in the league, so it's something where even if guys focus in on Lamar as a runner, you can just hand it off to J.K. and then he'll burst off for 10, 15-yard gains. So I think either way you look at it, as long as you got a great running back with him, and then you mentioned the tight ends where he's got the short passing game, I think Lamar will still be successful in this league and be good enough to be a decent to top-notch starter.
Yeah. Moving on to the Bills, which is a very comfortable quarterback situation in Josh Allen.
Yeah, a guy that was in MVP talks this past season. He's in the same boat as Lamar, where he's got a 5th-year option for 2022, which the Bills will most likely accept on a very cheap deal right now. We talked about his MVP numbers, how much he improved from the 2019 season.
And he can only get better.
I was going to say, he's going to be another guy that's going to be in the top 5 quarterback conversation.
Yeah. Really, really feeling good with Buffalo. They got nothing to worry about for quarterback right now.
Speaking of not being comfortable...
let's flip the script. Not being comfortable is the Carolina Panthers, who... It's between Teddy Two Gloves and Justin... And drafting, that a lot of... people, they said they like Justin Fields.
I would say Justin Fields has been going in a lot of mock drafts to the Panthers at 8. Because
they have a good position at 8.
I was going to say, because so many guys have flipped, Zach Wilson being the second best guy and Fields being the third best guy.
Well, I like them at 8 because that kind of gives them all right, well, they kind of gives them whoever's left. They don't have to make that decision between...
Well, and also, if they want to, they could move up a couple spots. If they think someone else is going to move into that position, take a Justin Fields or whatever quarterback's available for them in that position.
Yeah.
They could trade up. They probably wouldn't take too much to move up 1 or 2 spots, and they could still get the quarterback that they want that's available.
But Teddy Bridgewater was serviceable, last year. He wasn't amazing, and he wasn't, god-awful, but he was serviceable. And they might have him go another year.
That's what I think. If they get a Justin Fields, I could definitely see a situation where Teddy's the starter for the first couple weeks of the season, and then Justin Fields takes over in week 5, week 6.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now going to a team with probably one of the worst QB outlooks.
Yeah, this is a team that could go in a lot of different directions, and that's the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, they probably they're looking at the Ravens and the Bills and just what did you guys do right? Because we did everything wrong.
Yeah, obviously they're kind of all the jokes and all the memes and everything on Twitter with them drafting Mitchell Trubisky instead of Deshaun Watson instead of Patrick Mahomes.
Falcons' backup quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky.
I mean, it could happen if he doesn't end up getting a starter job. But you and I have 2 different quarterbacks going to the Chicago Bears for the 2021 season. We'll start off with yours because that's going to be a huge splash if they can make the move. And that's Deshaun Watson.
A lot of people who know a lot more about football, market than we do, are saying that the Bears are going to be going for a push for two guys right now, and that would be Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. Those are the two guys that the Bears are going to be all in for. They have the draft cap and they have the defensive starters to for what the Texans are wanting.
Yeah, obviously Deshaun Watson.
I'm leaning
football.
I'm leaning more Deshaun though, even though Russ has even said he would play in Chicago. I am leaning Deshaun though. I want them to rectify their because Deshaun was in the same draft as Trubisky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what everyone knows. Deshaun wants out of Houston. The new GM, new head coach in Houston, saying that they don't want to give him up, but it seems like it's going to take 2 or 3 first-round draft picks, probably 2 defensive starters, maybe a third player. A lot of other teams that are looking at Deshaun would probably trade their quarterback. So you look at the Dolphins would trade Tua. Maybe the Jets would trade Darnold if they end up making a push for him.
I mean, heck, the Bears right now would be a very similar situation to what what the peak Houston was like. I mean, they have a defined number one in Allen Robinson, not as good as D-Hop, but he's a defined number one that he doesn't have to share. And then they got a decent tight end with Cole Kmet coming up, and you have a good running game, probably one of the better running games.
Yeah, David Montgomery definitely was a step up this past season. I actually was looking at this. The only reason why I could see it running into problems is because the Bears are in kind of a tough cap situation. They're actually listed as the second worst team in terms of cap, almost $20 million in the red. Obviously, if they trade some of those defensive starters, then that could help out the situation. But Deshaun's the second or third highest paid quarterback in the league now. I think Dak ended up passing Deshaun in terms of money-wise. So I think he's the third highest paid quarterback in the league right now, so he's definitely gonna be on your books for quite a pretty penny.
Yeah.
So it's definitely gonna be something that could happen. The Bears would be throwing first round picks for the next couple of years, throwing away some of that great defense.
Quick aside: Bears did sign Cairo Santos to a 5-year. What was the 15?
It's like 5-year, $16 million deal. They're hoping he's the long-term answer at the kicker situation. Of course,
Rich,
Cody Parkey from a couple years ago.
I was going to say, but what do you like the Bears doing?
I'm going with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Journeyman.
Yeah, because they have the number 20 pick in the draft, they're going to miss out on all those Tier 1 quarterbacks, the 5 guys that we mentioned leading up to Mac Jones. So they'll probably go in a different direction with their first-round draft pick. I could see them drafting a later-round quarterback, one of the second, third-tier quarterbacks, and then having Ryan Fitzpatrick there on the 1-year deal where that quarterback can sit behind him as a backup. But I see, because of where their draft position is this year, because of the cap situation, I see them just having a temporary fix for the upcoming season, signing the veteran in Fitzpatrick, and then going into next offseason, going into the next draft, and maybe signing a free agent quarterback, trading for a guy.
That would be a pretty Bears move. It's kind of weird that that Fitzpatrick's never played for the Bears. For all those teams he's played for, it seems like the Bears would be, one of them, but he just never has. And I do agree that they will miss out on anything available. It's kind of cursed that they were to make the playoffs.
That's what if they
with that big of a question as they have.
Yeah, if they don't make a big term move like you think, Stein, whether it be Deshaun or Russell Wilson, I just don't see. I think they're going to sign one of these veterans, one of these free agents to a 1-year deal.
Yeah. Moving on is the Bengals, and we both have we think that Joe Burrow will be the starter. The only problem with Joe is his injury. Gruesome injury ending his season last year. That is going to create question marks on can he be back at the same level? Can he run? Can he compete?
Yeah,
that's probably the only question on him because we both are high on Burrow. We both love Joe. We think he's the
number 1 pick in last year's draft, so a lot of people high on Joe Burrow. Back in January, they had an update on him that he was about a month ahead of schedule, so that's a promising sign. He's looking to be ready for that Week 1 start, so they really need him because with Ryan Finley and I don't even remember the other guy that they had starting at quarterback.
Zach Taylor's their coach. That's a quarterback name, though.
They really struggled without Joe Burrow on the football field, so hopefully he'll be ready for Week 1, but he's definitely their long-term answer at
Yeah,
quarterback.
and I'm not going to say they're in a comfortable quarterback situation, and that's only because I want a full season of healthy Joe. Like if we see a full season of healthy Joe and he's, he puts up decent numbers, nothing staggering, but just decent numbers, then that's a good sign that he'll be progressing, and eventually they'll be comfortable, and the Bengals can fix a lot more problems, besides him. And the problem is, they're going to also need to protect him too, and that was one of the big issues. Even for the guys, the backups, the Bengals, I think, were one of the most sacked teams. So
yeah, that's what they're hoping, that Penei Sewell will still be available at number 5 in the upcoming draft.
Yeah, moving on to the Browns, and surprisingly, the Browns are in a good quarterback situation.
Yeah, especially with how Baker played this past season. He's got an $18 million fifth-year option for 2022 that it's looking more towards, because of his performance from last season, looking like they'll end up accepting that.
Yeah, if you would have told me that the Browns would be, especially in this year with the crazy quarterback situation, the Browns would be one of the teams that actually have a better outlook, I would have, heck no.
They'd be close to the middle of the pack towards the top in terms of their QB situation.
Yeah, the Browns are actually comfortable, and, Baker is progressing where he needs to be. So yeah, the Browns, good outlook for them.
That's when I definitely could see Baker with another good season. I could see him getting a long-term deal with Cleveland.
Yeah, and that's something that they just never had. We think about the jersey, the famous quarterback jersey. Finally the buck stops with Baker, so that's awesome for them. Cowboys, we just talked about Dak. Good outlook. They got the guy that they needed to. Like we said, no more DiNucci, no more Dalton. They are sitting pretty as long as Dak is ready to go. When things start when the ball starts rolling.
That's because we talked about it earlier. We'll just hop right into the next team. I've said my piece.
Yes. Now, we've had 2 good teams in a row. Let's go to a team with
that's pretty much how to describe it, and that's the Denver Broncos. Drew Lock really having a sophomore slump last season.
Yes, the definitive sophomore slump of sophomore slumps.
Yeah, we've mentioned the 15 interceptions, tied for the league lead. I see them sticking with Drew Lock this upcoming season.
As do I.
But I see them either signing a veteran, a guy, Alex Smith is someone that comes to mind, or they end up drafting one of those next-tier quarterbacks. 2 guys that come to mind, Felipe Franks, KJ Costello, both 6'5" Stein.
Oh,
so
well,
John Elway loves his tall quarterbacks.
Is not GM anymore, though. He's not having GM duties.
He does love it. I'm sure he's got some sort of say in terms of who
they end up drafting. He's got a puppet.
Yeah.
Probably. I agree that I think they're going to stick with Drew, and I think they're really going to look to the 2022 free agent class and the 2022 draft. I think they want Drew to be successful. I mean, this is a guy who had a flash of success last season, or the season before last season. Last season really slumped, and if he can get it together, especially in that Murderers Row division,
that's what
they can stick with him.
Hopefully, though, with Cortland Sutton back, he'll get a number 1 target, and then he'll have a better season, and they won't even have to worry about their future outlook, and he'll just be the starter for the next couple seasons. But as of right now, kind of a shaky QB situation in Denver.
Another shaky QB situation. A completely rebuilding team in the Lions, and they got Jared Goff, in the trade of Stafford, but I wouldn't say that's a comfortable situation, Roach.
Yeah, the biggest thing, though, is it's going to be hard to move his deal because he signed that 4-year, $134 million contract. He's signed, like I said, signed through 2024. There's a potential out after 2022, so they may go that route, but a rebuilding Lions, you need someone to start at quarterback, someone to put fans in the seats.
He's not going to put fans in the seats. You just need someone to throw the ball. This is like the equivalent of when your team is losing like 10-0 in baseball, and you just need a guy to get out there and throw strikes.
You need a guy to eat up innings so you don't have to waste your whole bullpen for games 2 and 3 of the upcoming series.
Exactly, and that's what they're going to do with Goff. I mean, he's not the answer. He's not the long-term answer. You're not going to win a Super Bowl, and you can mark that right now. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff as the Lions, even though he was close to winning a Super Bowl with the Rams.
I was going to say, you're not going to win a Super Bowl at all if you're the Lions. It doesn't really matter if you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback just because of who they got around.
I mean...
Stein, have you seen their whole team?
Not now. I mean, if you put Pat Mahomes on the Lions right now, they don't win it. But I'm saying, even if they were the Lions from, 3 3-4 years ago when they were actually decent. Yeah, no.
Add Megatron and Barry Sanders, and maybe we'll start talking about the Lions winning a Super Bowl.
Yes. Now, a team that was actually in QB hell last year, I would say.
Yeah, going into last offseason. Much more comfortable because they had the MVP.
They had an MVP, and they have a guy in waiting behind him. So this probably might be one of the top 5 quarterback situations with the Packers. They got Aaron Rodgers under contract through 2023. All the grumblings of him not being happy, I think those are all just smoke and mirrors.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's happy there. He's definitely not like
I think he's more pissed just because he's 1-3 or 1-4 in the
NFC
Championship.
He can't get the
games.
monkey off his back, and I think that's his biggest caveat. But they still got Jordan Love behind him. Everyone was saying, why the heck did they draft Jordan Love? And I still think that they could have drafted him later. Definitely a reach at 26 overall.
He was a kind of question mark at the quarterback position. A lot of guys liked him because he's got more of that prototypical current style of quarterback play that guys like.
It makes sense, the fact that they drafted him, but it didn't make sense where they drafted him. I think that their outlook is good, though, because they got the guy right now, and they got the guy in waiting. They don't have...
And a guy like Jordan Love can
a lot of teams don't have
Rodgers.
The guy right now. I mean, they got 2 guys, so just a great... Oh, God. I'm just looking at the next one.
Yeah.
Can we just skip the next one?
Yeah, I mean, we can skip it just because there's so many different directions that they could go, but...
We'll talk about it because it's probably the worst quarterback situation, if not, top 3 worst, and that is the lowly Texans.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier, Deshaun wants out. The Texans don't want to trade him. It's so confusing. I was talking about one of my buddies. I think it was yesterday, and it's like I don't see Deshaun getting traded because there's so few teams that could meet the Texans' asking price.
Yeah, there's
but I just don't see Deshaun suiting up for the Texans ever again. And if that means sitting out this season, the Texans have mentioned that they'll let Deshaun sit out this season. He'll lose $20 million from it, his yearly contract, but
he's still got money in the bank.
It's such a confusing situation. It's so hard to try and predict where they're gonna go, but both of us I think we both predicted Deshaun getting traded to different teams. So there's going to be a new quarterback in Houston.
I want to say that he will play, and even new coach David Culley believes that he will be their quarterback. I think there was an interview that came out this week that said that Culley said when he asked Deshaun, will you play quarterback, and he said yes. Granted, maybe he was saying will you play quarterback? Yes, but Deshaun was thinking I'll play quarterback, but I'll play quarterback for the Dolphins or the Bears.
Yeah, for a different team.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got Brock.
That was a joke. I said Brock Osweiler.
Okay, I got it. Brock Osweiler, JK, as their starting quarterback. But
I do think Deshaun will play quarterback when push comes to shove. I think he will play. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure from his camp, for his reputation to play. Because a lot of people are seeing Deshaun as kind of like a crybaby. I don't know if you heard Brett Favre a couple of weeks ago was, Brett Favre and I forgot Jerry Glanville of all people. Jerry Glanville, old Falcons coach, just saying that this guy just needs these quarterbacks, these diva quarterbacks, and Deshaun's not even a diva. He's just a guy who is in a shitty situation because of his team.
He's
has no idea. His organization has no idea how to build a team.
Well, so if Deshaun goes to the Bears, like you said, do the Texans get Trubisky? Do they sign him as a free agent? Do they just switch quarterbacks? Do they go veteran route, sign a Ryan Fitzpatrick, something like that?
I don't even know. I just the thought of Mitch Trubisky for the Texans. Watch them win a Super Bowl.
Colors.
Watch them win a Super Bowl.
You trade in the orange for the red. It's pretty much the same colors. So
yeah.
I'm actually gonna save who I think is gonna start for them because I've got Deshaun getting traded and we haven't gotten to the team that I've got him getting traded to.
Okay.
Yet, so I'll bring up my starter for the Texans when we get to that other team.
Okay. Yeah. Moving on to a team that I like to say plays rent a quarterback, and that is the Indianapolis Colts. Right now, Carson Wentz, they got him as penciled in as the starter. He will be the starter this year.
Yeah, he's under contract for the next 4 seasons.
It's really kind of like hopefully his his rebound. When you date a girl and you break up and then you need that rebound girl. The Colts are Carson Wentz rebound girl. He's back with Frank Reich. We talked about that a couple shows ago. Long-term future, though, this kind of similar to golf. Wentz isn't the answer.
Yeah, it really depends on if he can perform with having the fresh start. A lot of guys like the change of scenery, like the familiarity and having an old coach.
Yeah.
So if Wentz can end up playing well, then we mentioned it. The Colts were a playoff team last season, so if Wentz is just average, then I think they have a chance of making the playoffs again. Like you said, it'll all depend on if he's got another bad season. Could be talking about other QB options for this team.
Yeah, and there even were some rumors about Andrew Luck returning. I think we can. I don't think that's going to happen.
It's going to be like Rob Gronkowski.
I think you and I can officially announce that. I don't think Andrew Luck will return. We think he's done with football. Speaking of people returning to football, the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer have probably the most obvious non-guarantee with Trevor Lawrence as their starter.
Yeah, I think everyone's writing in Trevor as the number one pick. Everyone's like, oh, the 1% chance that they don't go in that direction. But the Jaguars are going to draft Trevor at number one. He's going to be their starting quarterback next season. They'll probably bring in some sort of veteran to help him out. I mean,
he's going to be week one, though. He's going to be week one quarterback.
Oh, yeah, right? He definitely is, but they'll bring in someone else. I think they'll still have Gardner under contract.
He'll be backing up.
He'll be the backup.
Get rid of Mike Glennon. I don't know why Mike Glennon's on a football field anymore.
Hey, he's a free agent. They could bring him back, though.
Bears need another quarterback.
And another pretty sure thing at quarterback, the longest
top three at quarterback outlook is Kansas City, Pat Mahomes. I don't even think we have to talk about that. Maybe talk about losing the tackles.
I think the only thing we need to mention is just the 10-year, $450 million deal that he's got signed through 2031.
There is breaking news, though. They are restructuring.
Yeah, so in the restructuring of all these deals, apparently his $23 million roster bonus, they're going to save $17 million by restructuring it.
Yeah.
So maybe bringing back some of those the offensive linemen in Schwartz and Fisher.
Yeah.
Trying to free up some money.
Let's go to the Raiders, who, honestly, as I like to say, could be worse. It could be worse with the Raiders. Derek Carr is penciled in. 2 more years, $38 million left on deal.
Another team that Russell Wilson's agent apparently claimed that he'd be fine going to.
I don't like that. I don't like the good boy being on the bad boy team.
Yeah, Mike Mayock said that Derek Carr is one of the best QBs in the NFL, so he's getting praise from Mayock. He's gotten praise from Gruden. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He's a average quarterback to above average quarterback.
Yeah, he's like,
he's a solid starter.
He's like a Snickers of a quarterback. You're
not the best candy out there.
Not the best candy, but you're not gonna. If someone's like, "Hey, you want a Snickers?" You'd be like, "Yeah, I'll have a Snickers." But
it's not an Almond Joy or something.
Yeah, it's not a Mounds, or you're not gonna be like, "No, I don't want that." That's what Derek Carr, the Snickers of quarterbacks.
that should be his new catchphrase.
Yes,
I like that style.
Yeah, Los Angeles Chargers, another decent quarterback situation.
I'd say pretty set in stone for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, I say set in stone. Granted, my big thing.
Granite.
I like Justin Herbert. I do think he's going to be the quarterback for the years to come, but I'm not 100% sold on his abilities.
A sophomore slump could be coming up.
That's one of the reasons I was thinking of Drew Lock. This is an AFC West quarterback, that I think Lock and Herbert are kind of similar builds.
I think Herbert's got more talent than Locke, but I definitely see kind of some similarities that you could draw from both of them.
Yeah, then I'm not 100% sold. He's going to be a media darling. I mean, he's in the City of Lights in Los Angeles. So, I think the City of Lights is Las Vegas. I don't know. City of Angels. City of Angels and Justin Herbert. So, I mean, they will be playing second fiddle to the team we're about to talk about, but they got him to build around. So, just a bright future. Maybe another season of what he did last year, and I will put all my chips on him.
That's what he'll be there for at least 4 seasons, maybe a 5th if they take his option. But so he's going to be the quarterback for the foreseeable future.
They're definitely doing a lot better than some teams. A team that actually sold their soul is the next one, and that is the Rams and Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, coming up on his age 33 season, he's on a very team-friendly deal, only going to make $9.5 million this upcoming season, $12.5 the next season.
Which is surprising for the Rams because they are literally giving everyone, they're selling their souls. They
made the big trade, selling away draft picks and everything to get Matthew Stafford at quarterback, but they're trying to make a Super Bowl run, trying to compete with the Buccaneers. But for the next 2 seasons, Matthew Stafford's going to be their starting quarterback.
Yeah, and I like him. Of all the quarterbacks that have moved thus far, I think he's probably my favorite of guy who's I think is going to have success immediately. And that's just based on his previous track record. Let's move on to the Dolphins, who are they're in the weird camp.
Yeah, they have a starter. They have going to be a second-year guy in Tua, but they also have a really great package that they could put together for Deshaun because they have Tua, they have the 3 pick, thank you Texans.
They have 2 first-round picks.
They have their 18 pick, they've got 2 second-round picks, thank you Texans, and then they got their future
Texans,
first rounds.
You are so...
But, so they have all the pieces if they want to pull the trigger on getting a Deshaun Watson. People have mentioned how Tua, the couple games, he was okay, good, but not great. Do they draft
Not everyone is freaking Justin Herbert.
Do they draft a quarterback at 3? Obviously, Zach Wilson could be available at Justin Fields to compete with Tua, which I don't think they go that route. I think the only way that Tua's not the starter next season is if they end up trading for Deshaun.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to draft another quarterback.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you draft quarterbacks with top picks 2 years in a row, and then you just pick your favorite one and trade the other one away?
You're going to need help on offense. Your defense is looking good, but you're going to need help on offense. A lot
of people have them going either wide receiver or taking Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, just get help on offense. Give Tua a weapon. I don't want them to give up on Tua because we both really like Tua. Not because of what he did to Georgia, but that might have a little bit.
There's a reason not to hate him.
Yeah, I mean, we like Tua, and he's a lefty. You don't see a lot of lefty quarterbacks, so, we want him to be successful. Try him out for another year. If he doesn't fit, send him to the Texans, because the Texans, the
Texans might just take a Deshaun for Tua straight up.
The island of misfit toys.
But moving on to the Minnesota Vikings, and I'd say they're set for the next 2 seasons because of the contract that Kirk Cousins has. I'm
not feeling comfortable.
Well, because he's the definition of a mediocre quarterback. I was really listening to the radio this past week, and they were the same way. They were talking about Kirk Cousins. They were like, I don't know how else to describe Kirk Cousins, but an average quarterback.
But but you would agree he's like a tiny step up, half step up of Derek Carr. Would you rather have Carr or Cousins?
I'd rather have Derek Carr, honestly.
Put age in a vacuum. Age doesn't matter.
No, yeah, I think I'd still rather have Derek Carr. Who beat the Chiefs last season? Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins? Granted, the Vikings didn't play the Chiefs, but
yeah,
I
Super Bowl 4, by the way.
I think I would give a slight edge to Derek Carr, but like I said, they're very similar, just average, your prototypical starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's the purple. Maybe it's the
Kirk
purple
Cousins
for
doesn't
me.
look good in purple.
Yeah.
But he's got 2 more years, pretty hefty contract, so he'll probably be the starting quarterback for the Vikings next 2 seasons, and they'll try and put a couple more pieces around him, see if they can make the playoffs and compete for a Super Bowl, but probably not going to happen.
Let's go to a team with a weird quarterback outlook, another weird one.
Yeah, we kind of had to alter this one because of the news.
Hot off the press news. The New England Patriots signing Cam Newton, now. So they have Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham, and, people are saying that they're probably going to draft a quarterback.
Well, so when I was doing the script Thursday night, we're filming this on Friday. When I was doing the script for this show, I was like, okay, everyone's got Trey Lance going to the Patriots, whether they get him at 15 or end up having to trade up to get him. But Trey Lance makes sense being the next Tom Brady for the Patriots for Belichick.
Yeah.
But with signing Cam Newton, you wouldn't give a guy $14 million to be a backup.
Yeah.
You would give a guy maybe $14 million to compete, I guess, for the starting job, to not have that job set in stone. But I just don't see them with the signing of Cam Newton. I just don't see them getting a quarterback on day one. I could see them going for a quarterback later on in the draft, getting a second, third tier quarterback. We've been talking about with some of these teams.
Mond, yeah.
But that's the only thing that makes sense to me with bringing Cam Newton
And they
back.
still have Jarrett Stidham, who hasn't had that opportunity to.
That's what, and if they end up going with a day 2 or day 3 quarterback, they're literally just going to draft probably another Jarrett Stidham.
Is Stidham going to turn into like the next Garoppolo?
Is he going to turn to the next Tom Brady?
Oh, jeez.
There's so many question marks that
because literally Cam Newton will get injured against the Jets, and they'll bring in Stidham, and then Stidham will win, 6 Super Bowls.
That's what Cam Newton. I just don't see what the Patriots saw after they signed Cam Newton to. He had a base salary of less than $2 million last season. Could earn up to $7.5 million in incentives. I don't know what they saw to have his base salary moved up to $8 million and could get another $6 million in terms of incentives. It doesn't make sense to me what they saw in a guy. We talk about this being a pass happy league. Threw for 8 touchdowns. He threw 8 touchdowns in 15 games. Stein. It makes no sense. Why you give this man $14 million?
I don't know. I like Cam. So like I said earlier in the show. So I'm happy for Cam with this deal. I'm happy for him.
I don't hate Cam Newton. I just don't think.
And I like to see the Patriots struggle.
I don't think he's one a starting quarterback in this league anymore. And 2, he showed that he doesn't have the production going off of that, and I can't.
Sorry,
I can't
know it's breaking your brain.
It's
breaking your brain.
My brain.
Let's go to something that will still break your brain, and that is the Saints quarterback situation. Drew Brees hasn't announced officially he's going to retire.
We're gonna assume that he retired.
We're gonna play this game that assumed that he retired. Jameis Winston versus Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's getting money. Jameis is a gunslinger though.
Jameis is a free agent, but Sean Payton, it sounds like, really wants to bring him back. But we know how much Sean Payton
Saints,
loves Taysom Hill.
Please sign Jameis.
I think it's between one of those two.
Yeah,
you
I
got
like
it as Jameis. I've got it as Taysom Hill. The only reason I give the edge to Taysom is
because
one,
money?
Because he's under contract. 2, because Sean Payton absolutely loves Taysom Hill. And then 3, when Drew Brees got hurt last season, who was the starter? Taysom Hill over Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
He was 3-1 as the starter. He's going to be a free agent after this season. He looked okay.
He's not a starting quarterback. Right?
He's not in that Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr territory. I put him at a step below.
He's 2 steps below, 3 steps. Let's move on to the Giants. Daniel Jones, who is going to be the starter, but we don't feel comfortable with Daniel Jones, and I think this is really his show me year, like the other New York quarterback.
Dak is the only guy that's set in stone in the NFC East when you look at the 4 teams.
Even though Daniel Jones is signed through 2023 and does have that if they decide to take that 5th-year option. So long term, they got him.
He's at least through the next 2 seasons they've got him in. And once again, he's just a guy that he's shown flashes of greatness. And
Not even greatness, flashes of goodness.
Well, that's what I think I mentioned this on a previous show where I think I kind of sum up Daniel Jones's play with that long run that he had.
Yeah, it's just like
where it's like he's great, and then interception, fumble, and the tripping that he had inside the 10-yard line.
Can we just have a quick tangent? Can we stop listening to quarterbacks from North Carolina schools who get hyped up right before the draft? I'm talking about Daniel Jones, and I'm talking about Mitch Trubisky, and I'm talking about what's his name, who's going to be literally the number 1 draft pick. People are saying next year. Who's the quarterback for North Carolina right now?
He used to be on Florida, or he was committed to Florida State. Sam Howell.
Yeah, Sam Howell is projected to be the one of the top 2 picks next year. Can we stop hyping up these guys? They're not good in the NFL.
I would say these are basketball schools, but they're
anyways.
They're kind of changing from that.
If you want a quarterback from North Carolina college, go to NC State. Russell Wilson, Phil Rivers. Enough said. Anyways, let's go to the Jets. This is his last chance, Sam Darnold. He doesn't have Adam Gase.
Let's see if they can bring in some weapons. They've got the number 2 pick. They probably got the second best package, I'd say, for Deshaun behind the Dolphins.
I want the Jets to be bad, and I want Sam Darnold to be good.
Yeah, that's what they're a team with 2 first-round draft picks. They've got a second and a third future first-rounders, so they've got the package for Deshaun. Deshaun has said that he'd be okay with going to the Jets. Sam Darnold's got a $19 million fifth-year option for next season, so this is going to be a make-or-break season if they keep him, whether or not they accept that or decline it.
Jacoby Brissett for NC State too, just saying. But so they are in the driver's seat for Deshaun, but Deshaun, who wants to go play for the Jets? Let's see what Saleh can do.
Hey, I mean, anything's a step up from the Texans, even the Jets.
Oh, yeah. If the Jets,
it's a baby
if
step.
you see the Jets are better organizationally wise than you right currently, you're not doing. I mean,
you're doing something.
You're doing something wrong.
But yeah, so I'm in the boat where a lot of people have them going Zach Wilson at 2. I'm in the boat of them going in a different direction with the number 2 pick, maybe trading back with that number 2 pick, just getting more draft capital. And I've mentioned it before. I like Sam Darnold. I want to see him succeed with a new coaching staff. Get him some weapons. Get the 48-year-old Frank Gore off the roster.
Yeah,
just see what he can do with a competent football team and a competent football staff.
Philly, this is Jalen Hurts' year to show what he can do. He could take the football world by storm because he's that kind of guy, or he's just going to fizzle out.
Yeah, the Eagles,
two directions.
The Eagles owner Jeff Lurie said that he wants the team to build around Jalen Hurts for the upcoming season.
This guy was a winner in college. He won a lot of games in college. We saw that.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of did had like Tua-esque stats in his limited time last year.
But there's a lot of questions. Once again, in the limited playing time, do they want to bring someone else in, have some competition for him so he doesn't have the surefire job? I can see them bringing in a veteran, but I just don't see them drafting a quarterback where they're in the middle of the draft. They're the 6th pick in the draft. So, they're in line where if they wanted to get one of those top-tier guys...
They're not going to.
Get a wide receiver.
Yes,
Jesus
please.
Christ.
Jamar Chase is there for the taking.
Please take a wide receiver.
Take one of these top guys. Don't take these guys from Washington, USC. No, Pac-12 players suck as receivers, okay?
I'm sick of seeing wide receivers for the Eagles not have 500 yards in this season.
Take these SEC receivers. You guys are so dumb. We don't need any more Jalen Rager. Don't take a Big 12 receiver, please, dear God, don't. Or back 12. Okay, let's move on to the Steelers. Big Ben got that one more year. That's it. It's over after that. They got to draft somebody this year. But I think they're going to be SOL because of where they are in the draft.
That's what they're at, the 24 pick in the draft right now. So Mac Jones could be there in that territory, but it seems like he keeps moving up on draft boards, so he might be gone by the late teens, early 20s.
I just see in a as a Steelers quarterback, KJ Costello, just from the name. That's just that's a Steelers
He's
quarterback.
like the next Mason Rudolph for that team, but you'll have Big Ben as the starting quarterback for this season. Could draft a quarterback, could wait till next season. Draft a quarterback in next draft.
Not good long term, just because Big Ben is going to be done after this year.
You got the short term option for this season, and this is probably Big Ben's last hurrah.
Yeah. 49ers, another team quarterback hell. I like Jimmy G. I think they're going to stick with him, but the guy's never healthy.
Yeah, there's been rumblings. He's got the big contract. Rumblings of him going back to the Patriots even. Probably less rumors with that with the Cam Newton signing, but... this is my team, Stein. This is where I've got Deshaun Watson going. So going back to the Houston Texans, I've got them taking Jimmy G. He'll be their starting quarterback next season. But Deshaun Watson, I say they trade Jimmy G. They trade their first-round pick, their second-round pick, 2 future firsts, and probably going to have to throw in a defensive starter in there too.
Yeah.
It's going to take a huge package, but of all the teams that it's been mentioned of Deshaun going to, you brought up the Chicago Bears, the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets. Which team is up there in terms of consideration of being in the best situation? We like the Miami Dolphins in terms of what they could do in the upcoming seasons. They had the great record. The 49ers, without the injuries, I would say we're a playoff team last season, so the 49ers could get their long-term solution at quarterback. Jimmy G, you mentioned the injuries, just the ineffectiveness. He hasn't been the answer at quarterback.
Just Deshaun, I just don't see Deshaun in cherry red. I'm sorry, I just don't see him wearing the cherry red. I think he's an East Coast quarterback, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. But I feel like this would be a great situation, just not only for Deshaun getting out of Houston, but great for the 49ers. I feel like he'd be great in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
I definitely see where you're going, and I see
Honestly,
Jimmy G as a Texan just makes sense to me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Jimmy G he reminds me of another Brock Osweiler. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's just he's a little more handsome.
That's what I feel like. I feel like Deshaun would be great in Shanahan's offense. Your team doesn't decline if you add Deshaun Watson to the roster. Yeah. So
we will see. I mean, the 49ers have never, recently haven't been like blockbuster teams, but we'll see what they
like I said, it's hard to project where Deshaun's going because of the back and forth of the Texans don't want to trade him. There's going to be such a huge asking price for him.
And then they do want to trade him.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard to try and predict where he's going. I like the 49ers. Does it actually happen?
We'll see.
Hell if I know.
Let's go to the Seahawks, a team that wasn't in good standing for quarterbacks, but is since things are kind of moving, which in a weird direction.
Things have been going on in the rumor mill, in the Twitterverse. Apparently, there've been rumblings of Russell Wilson not going to be the quarterback in Seattle anymore.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier the agent saying the Cowboys, Saints, Raiders, Bears, 4 teams you could go to. Cowboys are going to be off that list because of the Dak signing. So Saints, Raiders, Bears. I just don't see why he would want to go from a decent to good situation in Seattle to
let's take the
Raiders
Cowboys
and Bears.
The Cowboys off. We'll take the Cowboys off that. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Raiders and Bears, that's our only problem with Russell is why would he go from a team that was a playoff team, and a better playoff team. Granted, they had some fumblings, and that's I think on offensive line. When I say fumblings, literal fumblings. I think that's on the offensive line, though. If they can get a guy, they can get some because there's 2 perfectly good tackles that just got released.
Yeah.
And some other guys. Just fix that offensive line. And this is crazy to me. I didn't know Russell Wilson is 32 and will be 33.
Yeah, that's what his age.
I thought he was 29 or 30.
His age 33 season is upcoming, so he's definitely not getting any younger. He's still got 3 more years left on his deal, so he's not going to be a free agent until his age 35, 36 season.
Yeah.
So the time's ticking for Russell Wilson, and I think he'll be the starter week 1 for Seattle, but
I think he'll be Seattle's quarterback for the next year or 2. I don't see him. I see him more as creating smoke, so he can maybe get not an extension, but a little bit more money.
That's what I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't finish his contract in Seattle.
Yeah.
I think he'll be the starter this season, but with 3 years left, I could definitely see him playing out the last season of his deal with another team.
It may be last season, but not this season. Let's go on to. We already talked about the Bucs. They're comfortable with Brady. Granted, I don't think.
All I want to point out, Stein, is that when I was making the script, you can literally see it on here. You guys can't see it, obviously, but it said, could he get an extension, thinking if he had a good season, could he be signed further because he wants to play for longer?
The guy we love to hate.
But yeah, moving on to the Tennessee Titans, our last 2 teams.
Yeah.
And they've got a pretty sure thing in Ryan Tannehill entering his second year of the big 4-year, $118 million deal that he signed.
I see Tannehill as kind of a step up of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he's kind of in between the tier of a mid-level starter and the superstar.
Yeah.
I'd say he's a great starter.
Yeah. We'll see what he's like without Arthur Smith, and how he's doing, but he seemed competent last year, even though people were projecting him to kind of take that step back after people figured him out. So, I like the Titans' outlook. Granted, I don't think it's one of the better ones, but I think they're comfortable for at least 2 years left of his deal. And then let's bring up the last team, which, of course, we're ending on another weird quarterback situation, and that's the Washington football team. Taylor Heineke, in his limited production,
Everyone remembers the playoff game.
and his limited sample size, was great. against the Super Bowl against the Super Bowl champs. I think Taylor Heineke is going to be their day one starter.
He signed a 2-year deal with the team in the offseason. They, right now on the roster, don't have any better options. They've got the 19 pick in the draft. Once again, I think they miss out on...
Yeah, they're not in a position to take a good quarterback.
They might get Mac Jones. Otherwise, they'd have to trade up for some of those other guys. Maybe they could trade up to get a Trey Lance. Mm-hmm. I see Mitchell Trubisky going to Washington.
Trubisky goes to Washington.
I could see him signing a 1 or 2 year deal. It just kind of seems like it fits. Maybe a nice little fresh start for Mitch. Sign him to a team that made the playoffs last season. Team in a not very competitive division. Wouldn't have that much pressure on his shoulders because of the great defense, because of the not so good division.
Yeah, but if he goes there, he's not he's not complete starter. Like he's.
He would still compete for the starting job, but I think that would be a great place for Trubisky to go.
That's not a bad deal at all. I mean, I never said this in our previous talks, but I think that Trubisky will be a backup. Obviously, I think the Falcons could use him as a backup. I mean, he's not this is a guy who 3 years ago we were saying at the end of the season, like, he was a Pro Bowler. He was an MVP candidate in terms of the Vegas odds. So I think his time in Chicago is donezo. I do like Trubisky, but I think the Washington football team, I think they should just play this Heineke guy. I mean, they're playing with house money with him. Like, they got nothing to lose with him.
Yeah, that's what obviously going through all these predictions. We're so many months away from the season. It's all just kind of fun and games to try and predict some of these guys.
Yeah.
Some other free agent quarterbacks, we brought up some of them. But Alex Smith, obviously, Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton, Cam Newton, not anymore.
Yeah, take that off.
Joe Flacco, Mike Glennon,
CJ
Beathard, and Nick Mullins. So all those guys could be competing at least for starting quarterback jobs on some of these teams. But like I said, probably half of our picks are going to be wrong for these starting quarterbacks. But just something fun to just kind of look into what our quarterback situation is going to be looking at. Tyrod Taylor kind of
sounds nice as a Washington football player.
Yeah, that just kind of seems he's
from Virginia Tech, kind of around that area. So, but anyways, guys, that's going to do it for our show. Next show, we're going to kind of have a free agent tracker. Probably have hopefully some of these more quarterbacks on the carousel get off. The league year will be starting, so we'll probably just be going in depth on the headlines for the entire show.
Yeah, that's what we'll probably gonna kind of be more like a opening kickoff, but like for the entire show.
Yeah, an extended show.
And then maybe do a little more kind of predictions type thing. Maybe some of those big name free agents, we can kind of see where they're gonna.
Probably try to maybe have a bet or something on maybe like the Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson deals.
But yeah, so we'll be talking about free agents, and then after that we'll start to get into some draft stuff.
Yeah.
That'll be coming up.
Guys are having their pro days. No combine this year. So we won't see.
Apparently, they are going to have in-person drafts. So
I did hear about that. Teams will be able to have war rooms.
There's
a lot of rules with the war room. But anyways, we will be. Our show next Friday will be in question because we might be doing an early show because y'all, it is March Madness, and though we love football, we didn't have March Madness last year.
This has been 2 years in the making now for March Madness. So
we are going to be having beer. We're going to be having wings and pizza. We're going to be sitting in probably these exact chairs with multiple laptops and the TV. Like, it's going to be a sports orgasm.
It's a sports nirvana.
Yeah, why did I say orgasm?
But we'll definitely keep y'all updated on our Instagram at the Couch Quarterbacks to just update you on when our shows are going to be releasing. Yes. May not be, of course, this will be coming out on Sunday, but it may not be next Sunday when it comes out. Could be a different day. We might be filming on a different date, but of course, we'll update you on when episode 6 is going to be coming up and coming out. But that's going to do it for episode 5, and we will see you guys on the flip side.
Y'all have a good weekend. See you guys.